Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Oakes with smartsocial.com, coming at you live from Los Angeles, California. Today, I have a friend that's joining us for this episode. He's on the other side of the earth. Now, if you're thinking, and we talked to a lot of educators and parents, and this is normal human nature, but if you're thinking, hey, our community's different, or our school's different, or you don't understand, we're unique, you might be, and that's great that your organization might be unique or the way you teach your kids. But guess what? In my opinion, and I think my guest here today is going to 100% agree, kids are the same all over the world. Whether they are in a third world country, whether they're an underdeveloped country, whether they're in the middle of America, or they're in an urban setting in Los Angeles, New York, or anywhere else, we are seeing similar attributes when it comes to anxiety, depression, or anything else. When it comes to screen time use, and that's what today's episode is all about, whether you're listening to us or watching us, please rate, subscribe, review, tag a friend below if you're watching this here, and we want to share this with as many parents as possible. Today, I'm so honored and excited, if you can't see the enthusiasm, to be interviewing Dean McCoubrey. He's the founder of MySocialLife.com in Cape Town, South Africa. Dean, welcome to the video.
Hi, Josh. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we must be a good thousands and thousands of kilometers apart. It is your morning and my late evening. So yeah,
it's dark outside for you, and I really appreciate your time. Now, you've got some neat stuff, My Social Life, and you're doing some incredible things. You're in Cape Town, South Africa, and I want to talk to you a little bit about what you provide for schools. Right? I want to talk to you. I want to learn what you're telling therapists about how to deal with social media anxiety, depression, and things like that. And then I want to talk a little bit about your 8 modules that you provide for schools. What can educators in the United States or anywhere in the world who are listening and watching to this what could they learn from those modules to gain some of your wisdom? So first, talk to us about what your company does.
Okay, so we are a digital life skills program in South Africa. We work across the country. What we do is we offer these 8 different modules. So we go into schools and we teach 8 hours of training. And we've actually just started to produce it to video as well. And so what happens is we go in and we teach kids from the age of 9 to 17. And we talk to them right up until, the area which you really specialize in, which is reputation and application for university or varsity, and light, bright, and polite. We go all the way up, but actually our role is to try and get kids to, because we're dealing with them quite early on, say 9 or 10 years old, we're trying to get them to be safer first, and then to be smarter, and then to explore, and then to excel. So we're trying to pull them through kind of a chain of development, which starts from very young up until they're older. And it seems to be really effective at the moment in our country. Kids are really responding well, beyond my own expectation, which is a good sign.
That's terrific. Okay, I love that, safe, smart, and then you get them on to the other stuff. I love how you're starting with a bed of safety, which is terrific. So you work with therapists, I believe, at schools and stuff. Talk to us about some of the biggest themes you're seeing right now, the frequently asked questions, or what you're telling them to remind them about normalizing the screen time addiction, anxiety, and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, so we train the Red Cross Children's Hospital Africa, because aside training students, we also train parents and teachers, but we also focus on school counselors, psychologists, cognitive therapists, essentially mental health professionals, because we believe that everybody kind of plays a part in this really complex situation, because we're complex human beings. So the mental health professionals from the Red Cross Children's Hospital Africa, but also lots of other individual therapists, have contacted us and asked us to be able to unpack what the social media landscape looks like, because what they're saying is partially there's a generational divide, but then there's also a technological divide. So some of them are, say, 30, 40, 50 years old, and they're saying, we just feel like we're a little bit behind. We can't keep up with the Instas and the Roblox and the TikToks and the whatever else it comes out, Brawl Stars, Apex, Fortnite. It doesn't matter what it is. They're saying like, we don't really know, but also they're not keeping up with the hoaxes. They're not able to talk about some of the ills or even some of the trends. They just feel completely distant and at sea. So now what's happening is they're getting patients that are coming in and they have these issues. And because they don't understand that context, it's really difficult for them to get under the skin of why somebody might be, for example, self-harming. And they understand self-harm completely. So they understand the symptoms and they understand the treatment, but they don't fully understand the context because, you know, it's so complicated actually what happens online. For most of us, when we're online, it looks completely the most simplest thing in the world. But actually what's happening up here in our subconscious as we store this stimulus, the things that we're reading and seeing that are bouncing into our brains and out, and that we're processing and throwing out and archiving or really storing if it affects us, those things are going deeper into our psyche and they're changing our behavior occasionally. And so they really need help in that. And I would say self-harm is probably one of the keys. Obviously, in schools, the two issues that we're dealing with are intimidation and bullying and sexual expression or sexting, but it can also be sexploitation, sextortion, unwanted approaches from strangers. Those are kind of the things in school. The things within mental health rooms or practices and clinics are more around self-harm, anxiety, OCD, depression, body issues, those types of things. Because those are the ones you really kind of almost scale up to go to a mental health professional. And look, you know, the interesting thing about online is I'm not somebody that says that online is the main reason for all of these ills, or not even ills, but some of the disorders that people are experiencing. It's just that, here's the thing is that if you experienced something in your family, a divorce or a trauma or something happened to you, sometimes what happens is when you seek to escape, it can bulge out or amplify in the way you behave online. Or if there's something that happens to you online, it can bulge in your life offline. So you start behaving in kind of unwanted ways in your physical life, in your family, maybe getting aggressive or whatever it may be. And so there's this kind of double act between online and offline about how different things affect us.
That's fascinating. So talk to us about these 8 modules you have for schools and kind of a little bit, what do those cover?
Yeah, so we cover everything from digital identity, like who are you going to be? This is a very strong suit of yours. We look at bullying, intimidation, and harassment. We also look at empathy. We look at resilience, privacy, cybersecurity, the brain-body connection, a digital value system, and I feel like I've forgotten one. Screen. Of course, the one we're talking about, screen time and obsessive use and its impact on how we feel from a mental health point of view. So I forgot, the last one I forgot is the one that we're talking about.
Yeah, and what you're really getting at, and everybody that's watching this right now, is these are all intertwined. They touch each other, right? There's no one that's like, this is the only one to concentrate and we'll work on the other ones. Would you agree that they all work? Too much screen time goes into the other ones and touches them. And if we don't work a little bit on everything.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting that you say that. It is, I mean, you can very much see that we completely do the same thing, because that's one thing that I say to so many people. We get a lot of media interviews here, and what the producers of these shows say is they say, God, we can't believe how much there actually is that you need to cover about life online when you talk about privacy, identity, security, sexuality, and so on. But actually, exactly as you say, the way in which they touch on each other, because one of the interesting things is we actually deal with specialists in each area. So we deal with cybersecurity specialists, sexologists, and so on. And it's so interesting because when you interview them and they give you their specific insight about, say, sexology or sexual expression online, and then you speak to somebody else about, say, privacy or cybersecurity, of course they're going to touch each other because, in terms of how people are approaching each other or how we leave our doors and windows wide open for people to come in and make approaches to us. They literally do touch on each other. And we need to consider that collectively, the way in which they can touch on each other and almost spark them off, they can cause a number of different problems. So mental health, reputational, your varsity application, your digital footprint, it goes on. And I've listened to you speak many, many times for years. And we talk very much the same stuff. We really do. And it's very nice to talk the same stuff.
Yeah. And I'm honored to hear that, but also there's such an uphill battle in just teaching people this. It's just great to see as many people in the space as possible. And I couldn't agree more. And I like to use examples. If you're buying a home in the United States, there'll be an inspector that comes out and looks at the home, and the inspector will look through everything for plumbing, electrical, heating, air conditioning, structural integrity and stuff. And oftentimes that some people will go, well, that's fine. There's an electrical problem. It's fine. It doesn't affect everything else. But oftentimes it does. As anybody who's listening to this knows, if you have a major problem in your house, it could burn the house down. It could change things. There's shifts. Oh, the lights don't work in that room. I mean, it's massive, right? For adults understand this stuff. Whether a big thing is broken on a car, it makes the car less safe. House as well, right? All these systems are integrated that we come to really rely on, but it'll adjust the way we look at things. And so any of you parents that are listening or watching this right now, really consider that, nobody knows it all. Right? Dean and I are here as leading learners to really just attract as much information, to write it down, to come up with systems and procedures and to help. But no one's an expert. No one's done learning here. We're all leading learners trying to absorb as much. There's going to be a new app out tomorrow probably, and we're going to approach it with an open mind. That's step one. And step two is parents, just really be where your kids are at if you can. One of the biggest things we talk about is how can you be on the same apps as your kids and be the number one safety app for your kids, meaning you have a rich dialogue with them. You remember that you bought them the phone and you can take it away at any time because this is the vehicle that you're providing for them. So you have an extra set of keys and you also have a passcode to it. Hey, Dean, talk to us about what are you seeing in schools in Cape Town? What are some of the biggest frustrations, frequently asked questions, or maybe misconceptions in Cape Town?
Well, I think, TikTok is completely exploded in a very massive way here. And I think, it's really interesting to see how the adults feel kind of quite at sea around TikTok. So many people don't know because of its explosion was so quick. If you think about it, relatively quick. It's meant that the teen and even preteen users of it completely get it. They completely love it. They're using it all the time. And the adults have just missed the boat. And they're like trying to catch up as to what it is, what are the risks on it? How do I understand the settings around it? How should I be advising my kids? And then you're hearing the kids saying, but this thing was Musical.ly. It's not a big deal, although it's not really quite Musical.ly. It's a different animal to Musical.ly, and that some kids are using it and enjoying it, and they are entertaining themselves, and they have closed groups and so on. But some are leaving it wide open. Some are experiencing all sorts of different approaches and content. Some are using it to view certain types of content. I think the point is particularly at the moment, people feel, because we're behind you. Remember, we're at the tip of Africa here. So we're at the tip of an emerging continent and an emerging country. And it's still developing. So we're all often behind you. But still, TikTok has gone crazy. And it's deeply loved because of music. Kids just absolutely love to dance. and to showcase and to get follows and to get likes and so on. But there's not really been that much guidance around it. And so we've been doing a lot of work on that over here, trying to unpack and explain TikTok and so on, so that people can use it more safely and more carefully.
Now, you just described the United States of America, right? I mean,
Oh,
you said, hey, we're developing, but guess what? And Dean, we have so much in common, our countries, when it comes to technology, when it comes to social media, because kids are addicted to the same app in your country as they are in Los Angeles, New York, the Midwest, in the middle of America. You know, every kid loves this new app within reason. And what you just said about they love music, they're on this app, parents are trying to learn it, parents are trying to catch up. Educators, I hope you're listening to this. If you think, oh, our community is a little bit different, or our school, Josh, you don't understand our school. It all comes back to the kids, right? It all comes back to where are they going? How are predators going to contact them? Well, just about every app, right? It all comes back to how could these apps be addicting to them? And how do we keep them well-rounded, learning other subjects in moderation? Screen time is great as a family. We're so into screen time. Snapchat, using the filters, doing TikToks together as a family. But what you just described is every city in America, right? Kids are ahead of their parents, and they have a phone, a device, probably earlier than they should, because parents are getting nagged. You're the worst parent in the world. Tell me if you hear this. You're the worst parent in the world. All my friends have phones. I can't believe that. Does that happen in your country?
Exactly the same. There is no difference. Everything you're saying and I'm saying seem to be absolutely identical, and I'm on the tip of Africa.
And all I'm telling people, and the thing that Dean and I really truly believe, is that we're starting with a child. We're starting with a kid. They have hundreds of millions of moving, beautiful little parts, chemistry, that very similarly, it's the same all over the world, right? There's no difference on the inside. We're all the same. And all I'm saying is that these devices have a similar opportunity to create bad things and great things. And the parents, the one denominator, if we could cut to the chase, is the more you're involved in this third party, with a dialogue, with access to the phone, with being a parent instead of being their friend, right? We often forget that. That's what's going to keep your kids safe. And parents, if you're overwhelmed, you're like, I don't have time for TikTok, Roblox, consider putting your kids' interests first and your interests second, meaning that you're saying, you know what, I'm going to make time. I don't have time for this Roblox. I'm not interested in it, or the time for TikTok, but consider just putting your kids' interest in the app first and your desires last, right? Dean, what do I have wrong? What kind of tips?
No, I wanted to add something really important. What you said is so true. So I had somebody speak to me about it quite recently, and they said, you know, I just don't get the whole TikTok thing, and I don't agree with it, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous, and I think it's mindless. And this is kind of the, you know, some of the stuff that parents say, but you just hit on it. The thing is earlier I'd said that there's a generational divide. So we've seen it by the meme of OK Boomer. I mean, come on, that thing went absolutely exploded, you know, but people, with kids kind of looking, going, shame, they don't get it. I mean, there's a whole language around how much parents don't get. And, you know, there's a technological divide, and we have to build that bridge. It's our job to build that bridge, because the kids won't build that bridge. They're not going to try and build the bridge to you. You must build the bridge to them. And that's by interest. And if you don't have the interest, you have to feign the interest, because feigning it or pretending, you know, you have to fake it a little bit until you make it. Feigning that interest and taking an interest and saying, show me that. I find that really interesting. Why do they do that? And where did that song come from? Or gosh, how did they get so many likes? How did they get, that's a hell of a lot of comments. You know, movie stars would hope to try and get that level of exposure. And, you know, without sounding too kind of, we call it doff, like a bit dumb, but you just want to show it, and then also show some of the interesting things that may be, and this is the interesting thing, show some of the funny things that parents are getting wrong, and like notice that parents are getting it wrong, because kids are laughing about how much parents get it wrong. So there needs to be a little bit of humility. There needs to be conversation. There needs to be interest, because then you have an opportunity to discuss. That could be at meal times. It could be in a car. If it's a tension, if there's a resistance around technology, who wants to talk to somebody who's resistant to what you're passionate about? It's a
Yeah.
real problem.
Oh, Dean, you're hitting it right on the head. It's so true, right? Being interested, even if, right? A lot of people say, and I'm sure it's true in your country too. There are old books that say, if you're not happy, try smiling for 1 minute and then gauge yourself again. You'll be happier, right? You're faking it, but all of a sudden you create a little bit of positivity in you. Now, I'm a realist, but your body, right? You can change things a little bit. Acting interested for a little while and asking your kids questions you can go, whoa, actually this is interesting, right? And we talk to a lot of parents that'll say they're over there playing the video games and stuff, and we encourage the dad or the mom, hey, go over there and play with them and watch what happens to your child. Just watch, do an experiment, prove me wrong. Go play Fortnite with them for a little while, TikTok with them, download the app, just watch what happens, mess with your kids. You want to see how weird they act? Mess with them, download the app, and your kid will go, you're going to do this with me? Oh my gosh, they will light up with excitement. And now if they don't, that means they're doing something wrong. They don't want you to be online, and which is even more of a reason for you to be there. But they'll light up. They crave some attention. And this is the way to keep them from attention from the bad people and give them that attention that they might be desiring.
That's right. And I mean, I was going to say, I went to this amazing gaming workshop between parents and kids. So the parents and the kids both came and they sat down, and I think everybody was kind of like, oh, this is going to be so cringeworthy. It's going to be hell, like thinking, how do I, as a kid, sit next to my parent when they clearly don't get it? There was that feeling in the room when it started. And the guy opened it up and he said, I'm a gamer. I'm the most passionate, insane gamer in the world. And he was like in his mid-30s. And the short of it was he said, like, people just don't get it. At his age, people don't get it. And he says he totally understands that parents don't get it with kids, and kids don't understand why parents don't get it. So he literally made them talk to each other. And he said, why don't you just for 2 minutes say, this is what I wish you just understood? And the kids looked to their parents and they fed this back. And the kids said, I wish you'd understand how happy I am when I do it. And that if you play with me, you'd get it. You'd understand where our community was. Yeah, sure, you can warn me and you can maybe say to me, I shouldn't swear online. And those things we can talk about, but at least just get my joy. Because actually what happens is not just dopamine. We forget that when you're in community, you get oxytocin as well, which is like the hug drug. The neuroscientist that I work with explained to me that it's not just dopamine. Everybody talks about dopamine and lots of kids go, oh, dopamine, I've heard all about dopamine. It's like, no, oxytocin is a community drug. You're in with your friends, so that tomorrow when everybody's talking about stuff, you get to go, yeah, man, that was amazing. That was insane. I loved it. Okay. But if you're not in that, you feel out of it. And so that's trying to understand the oxytocin and the community and what it meant, and what it meant in the conversation next day was what the kid was trying to get across. The parents said, yeah, but sure. But when I tell you that I need you to get off the game, then the problem is I want you to just get off. And the kid said, yeah, I know, but I'm in the middle. I'm right towards the end of Fortnite. I'm down to the last 5. You can't ask me to get off now. And then the parents were like, okay, well, maybe I could bend. But this conversation was game changing because everybody went from cringe to, okay, I can hear you. I don't always agree with you, but I can hear you about what you're saying. As soon as you've got that, you've got this bridge, just a touch of a bridge coming together. If we've got these bridges, then we don't have isolation. If we don't have isolation, we don't get some of those anxious or angry or disappointed or fearful or some of those kind of weird bulges that happen in our behavior because we feel heard, we feel seen. That's what humans need more than anything. It makes us feel safe. When we feel safe, we can operate much better. And those bridges are essential between kids. And what worries me is we blame the device and so on, but actually we need to blame communication around the tech, not the tech necessarily itself. We need to get more educators like yourself and myself doing more to build people who are teaching, B, counseling and supporting and so on. That is where the fix is, in my view.
Wow, what $1 million, a great way to put it. Couldn't agree more. I love what you said about that on just understanding each other, saying, tell me about gaming. It sounds like it was a neat conversation between all the students and all the parents, right? This is how it makes me feel. There's a big phrase too. Anybody listening to this right now, we like to, and this is actually pretty valid because kids will feel, especially during a time right now where everybody's home And after we get over this, people will be more free to do stuff. But your feelings are valid. Some people will say that, but it's actually really cool for us to tell ourselves that, wait, I got upset today on the inside. Why did that happen? What happened there? And that happens a lot when students are trying to game or do something and parents are saying, put that device down now. Right? It's causing some argument between the two. It's causing some mismatch, but I love what you just said about that. Hey, I'm going to let you have last word, Dean. What would you tell parents anywhere all over the world about working with students instead of against them? What's your tip that would really help parents better understand or come to an agreement with what their kids are going through?
You know, my thing is, you touched on it earlier, and that is that a lot of parents say either I'm not interested or I haven't got time. And I'm saying just the simplest tool in the world that we use every day 100 times, which is Google, and you just type parent tips plus Fortnite or what is Fortnite, and then you click on just the video tab because you don't want to read some long boring article. And there's brilliant things out there which summarize very consistently what the app looks like on the inside, what the settings maybe should be, what the risks are, what the fuss is about. This is what you do beautifully. You concisely summarize what's happening. And so there isn't really an excuse. It's a 2-minute to 3-minute video just to even give you like enough to be able to bridge that divide and to be able to talk about. And also to perhaps consider that as much as you don't like it, as much as you don't agree with it, as much as you don't believe it, how is your current behavior helping you in terms of the friction and the resistance between parent and child about that life online? How's it working out? So if you were to adopt a different behavior, first of all, by adopting or accessing knowledge or education from experts like yourself, and then perhaps maybe getting off our kind of position where we are, where we're feeling frustrated, because that's very human as parents. We want the best for our kids, but it is very human to get frustrated, but sometimes that frustration just keeps us banging against each other, just hitting the same walls. And if we stop and then we go back around to see if we can approach it from a side door through questions, interest, maybe some passion, some goofing around, and certainly a little bit of Googling. Think about the amount of time that we spend on Googling our own interests, be that the game or sports or news or whatever. Just that time to be able to spark a conversation. And collectively, if we spark lots of conversation, they move one by one into ongoing conversation, which allows us to establish what our value system is around the things that are important offline in our home with what's important to them in their online world and offline world. And that way, as this comes together, you can say, yeah, you can have an online life. I get it. But let's just keep talking about what I'm hoping and trying to achieve, what I'm trying to share with you. And it starts with accessing information and not saying, I don't get it, I don't believe in it, I don't agree with it. It doesn't really get us anywhere. It's weird. It's just as simple as that.
That's so wise. This has been a really enjoyable time, Dean. Dean, we have to do this again. This is really great. You are a wealth of knowledge. I'm so glad we got to connect. For all of you listening, watching, from anywhere you're at, please rate, subscribe, and review. Links below are provided to Dean's organization, My Social Life, with one L there. Go take a look at some of the stuff they are doing. And if you're an educator and you're just trying to figure all this out, Dean and I are here to work with you. We're here to help, just as your friends, first of all, to provide resources to you. If you're looking for the next stage for parent resources as well, you can go to smartsocial.com, where we have all the app guides. We have all kinds of different things. It's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest, to explain in one sentence. But we're thankful for everybody watching right now. As always, remind your kids to be full of positivity and gratitude whenever they're online. It's a little bit of a PR protection thing so that your kids don't get you in trouble. And as well, keep it light, bright, and polite because your kids are watching. Dean, I want to thank you all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. You're a great guy. I appreciate your time here today. Everybody else who's watching, thanks for joining us here today. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
Thank you.